Here's a quick review on simplifying square roots. The first one here, the square root of 49 is 7. Now we're going to use that in some later examples, so I thought that would be a good reminder. Now you've got the square root of 98. This does not have a perfect square root. If you take your calculator and you do the square root of 98, you see it does not come out to a perfect number. So what we're going to do is look for factors of 98 that are perfect squares. And from problem 1, 49 times 2 is 98. Now, what makes this nice is 49 is a perfect square. So what we can do here is say the square root of 49 is 7. So we can simplify the square root of 98 as 7 square root 2. What about this one? You've got the square root of 98 and this 2 in the front. That 2 in the front means multiply. So we're going to hold on to that for a little bit. The square root of 98, as we saw in the previous example, is 7 square root 2. That's this part. Now you can multiply these outside numbers, if you want to think about it that way, these coefficients. 2 times 7, that's 14 times the square root of 2. Okay, problem 4, simplifying or rationalizing the denominator here is the process we're going to use. So we don't like to have square roots in the denominator, and one way you can get rid of it, or the method we do, is this. Now, first glance, this appears to make the problem that much more complicated, but what happens is we can multiply the numerator and the denominator of any fraction by the same number. If we choose square root of 7, watch what happens to the denominator. The square root of 7 times the square root of 7 is the square root of 49. In the numerator, you've got 5 root 7. Now the square root of 49 is 7. So you have 5 times the square root of 7 divided by 7. And this answer, our denominator, is a rational number as opposed to an irrational number that we started with. Final one is just a quick example of what happens when you have variables in the square root. And there's different ways to think about it, but we're going to deal with the regular number first. 36. The square root of 36 is 6. X to the 4th. Well, the square root of x to the 4th, what this square root does is it basically takes that exponent and cuts it in half. So it's x squared. This, since we don't know what that number is and there's no exponent, we have to leave it in the square root. Now, just a real quick way to double check something like this. So let's go back to here. If you weren't sure on, let's say, this first problem, how can you check? Well, 7 times 7, that's 49. So over here, let's see, x squared times x squared. Well, that is x to the 4th, which checks that.